David, 10 years in and out of prison.
Yes.
Do you remember the first piece of advice another prisoner gave you when you went into prison?
That's a good question. Yes. I remember I was told not to borrow anything out, not to tick anything out, don't give out, because back then you could smoke tobacco and that. So I was told don't tick out your tobacco, don't give out your canteen and stuff. Because back then when you came into prison, you got like either a smoker's pack or a non-smoker's pack. And the smoker's pack would give you like a quarter ounce of tobacco, a lighter, and some Rizla. And then the non-smoker's pack was like a kilo of sugar, tea bags, and like a chocolate bar or something like that. And a lot of people will get the smoker's pack because tobacco is currency in jail. So yeah, I was just told don't give it out if you don't want any problems. So when I first started, I was like that. But then afterwards, when I got more into prison, I did start giving out my stuff, but for double back or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any bad bits of advice when you first went in?
Yeah. The worst bit of advice that I got was when I first came in, I wanted a single cell. And I was told that basically I have to fight my cellmate to get a single cell. And long story short, that all happened. I was young at the time. And yeah, I ended up getting a single cell because they put your risk up, they make you high risk. And then once you're a high risk prisoner, you can't share a cell. You have to like stay in your single cell. So that advice was given to me. So it got me in trouble, but at the same time, it got me a single cell. And at the same time, obviously it was bad for my cellmate at the time, kind of thing.
Yeah. I was just saying beforehand, I have mates in Brazil who send me tweets, Instagram reels of UK prisons. It kind of looks like a good time. What what was the reality like? Is there much violence? What's really going on?
And a load of violence in every prison you go to. I don't think it's a good time. I think what we do is we make it look good for our families and friends to be like, oh, yeah, he's all right in there. He's not going through stuff. But the reality is you're going through it, you know. You're in your cell 23 hours a day. Normally when you go on remand, you're in your cell 23 hours a day. So if you can imagine being in a room way smaller than this for 23 hours a day, then you get out for like an hour a day to associate and have your shower, make your phone calls and whatever. It's not nice, you know, but people pretend that it's all right. I think the only people that prison works for are people that don't have nothing to lose, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that.
When you first went in, did you kind of have a mask up, like a brave face, or did you have to develop that over time?
Good question again. I don't know if I think everyone has a mask up if you're going into social circumstances that you don't know the people. You might put a bit of a mask up. You might have a bit of a defense on. Might put on a staunch face or something like that. But I was already on the roads, if that makes sense. So when I came into prison, I was already kind of like that, you know. So I didn't really have to put on anything. You do kind of put on the face, maybe screw up your face a bit. But yeah, when I first came in, I met some people that I already knew. So it was kind of like, it was all right straight away. But I just miss family and that. Yeah.
Well, I was watching your Channel 4 documentary on YouTube the other week, and it actually really surprised me how much kind of contraband is in prisons, like tobacco, phones, drugs. I spoke to a prison governor a couple of months back, and she was talking about all these measures she tried to implement into the prison system. She even went as far as kind of putting up like fish nets in the prison yards to stop stuff being thrown over. Mm-hmm. How does stuff actually get in?
There's loads of ways, man. Like there's a saying, where there's a will, there's a way, you know.
Yeah.
And in prison, you know, as I said, 23 hours locked up. You just have a lot of time to figure out how to get in, you know. So you can throw it over the wall. You can get it through an officer if you have a good relationship with a prison officer or friendship. You could get it on a visit. drones nowadays. You're seeing a lot of drones going on. There's plenty of ways to get it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get like stuff in, things like tobacco, things that you can get outside but you can't get inside, is what would usually be on the parcels. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, during your time in prison, did you see like any acts of goodwill or like humanity from other prisoners
Of course.
to each other?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time, man. Like even me, like I've stopped loads of suicides. Loads. And I'm not saying it was going to be a suicide, but like there'll be people that are stressed out, like super stressed out, or had like bad phone calls, and then they're starting to like string themselves up, as in like they're tying up their neck and stuff and they're getting ready. And then, you know, I've talked some people down. Do you know what? A lot of prisoners will talk each other down from these situations, because as we spoke about before we started recording, a prisoner is probably more likely to listen to another prisoner than like an officer. So yeah, the guys help each other. There's loads of acts of humanity. Even things like relationships, like guys talk about their relationships, how to better them, how to be better people when you come out. It's just like any society, you have good apples and you have bad apples, but in this society, everyone has committed a crime to be there. Do you know what I mean? But as we spoke about before, there's circumstances of what put that prisoner there in the first place, and that's something that obviously everyone should look at. But yeah, I saw loads of acts of humanity. I would actually argue that people inside are more loyal than people outside.
Why do you think that is?
Because, you know, you see some snaky things going on outside, and just normal things, but like I used to watch TV and I used to see like, you know, snaky things happening. But in prison, there's a saying, when you come to prison, all you got is like your word and your balls, because you've got nothing else. You come into prison and you're either gonna keep a good word, so what you say, you stick to it. Then you got your balls, so you defend yourself, kind of thing. But yeah, it's important to have a good word in prison, or to have a good reputation for being straight, like, you know, a straight person. And yeah, loads of people would aspire to be like, you know, do good things, if that makes sense. Like, to kind of like, what's the word? To be looked at as a straight person. So say for example, if I was doing business in there, I would do business with you because you're a straight person. But if you're one of those people that's going to run off the wing, going to speak to the officers, or going to like do these things, or anything snake, or go and talk to your girl, because you hear that sometimes, like some prisoners might get your girl's number and try and call. That happens sometimes, but I don't know. I've seen a lot of loyalty in prison, man. I've seen, like, you know, I've just seen loads of things where I'm just like, that's really loyal, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seem to have you've definitely got your head very screwed on. You're making these documentaries, your podcasts. Did people naturally orientate towards you whilst you were in prison, kind of for advice? Did you see yourself as kind of a figure that was dishing out advice and helping other prisoners?
Yeah, I was helping prisoners, and I think like I just was explaining, we help each other, man. Like, if you've got a good head on your shoulders, and, you know, like, and you're talking about positive things, then you're going to attract other people that are like that, just like in the outside society. So, you know, I used to have a lot of positive conversations, and I get a load of messages from guys that was with me inside, even officers. And I used to say, like, when I come out, I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna work, you know. And it did that. And I get loads of messages like, you said you were gonna do this, you started it, and it actually worked out. So respect. I guess it's inspirational, because when I came out, I'd spent 10 years in already. So I went in from 20 to 30, and I thought there was going to be nothing for me. I had no qualifications, no job, no prospects. But yeah, I just put my mind to something, and I thought, I had partners at the time as well. She's still my partner. She kind of helped me out with some questions, and then I started recording and stuff, and yeah, everyone liked it. Even I had officers coming to me and saying, when's the next episode coming out, and things like this. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I want to talk about that bit. So you kind of went a little bit viral for whilst you're in prison, you had a phone and you were recording other inmates,
yeah,
kind of getting
yeah.
them to share their experiences.
Yeah,
Was that the first of its kind?
it was the first of its kind at the time. Good shout though, because not a lot of people
Yeah.
know it was the first, like, because at the time there was like loads of prison documentaries coming out, and people that was uploading stuff to the internet from prison were people uploading things like prison fights, you know, prisoners overdosing on drugs or spice or whatever, or just, you know, just doing silliness. Or they might record like hooch or having fun or rap videos or whatever. All good stuff.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just get the reality of the situation. So obviously on my phone, I started recording the guys, just saying, like, asking them, do you wanna do a video and just kind of say what like, talk about your reality in prison, like your experience in prison, you know, and don't put on nothing for the cameras, just tell us how it is. And I believed at the time that it could work as a deterrent, rather than like the other guys that were glamorizing it and, like, you know, showing parties in jail and everything like that. I just kind of wanted to show this is the reality. I've asked this guy like these questions, and he's telling you the reality. He's telling you about the bad things that happen, like, you know, the darkest nights he's had in jail, the worst things he's seen in jail, and like the worst food and things like this. And then also I wanted to dispel a few myths, like, for example, phones. People think you've already got a phone to commit more crime, but I think the majority of prisoners use a phone to keep in contact with their family or their loved ones, you know, to maintain family ties. So yeah, a few prisoners echoed that as well. You know, I'm not saying that we should give all prisoners phones. I think they're sorting this. They're kind of like putting phones in cells now, so they're making a difference. But it is important to keep family ties. And basically, yeah, I was just asking questions that I thought was important, and for society to see a prisoner as more human than just some character from like some bad guy. Do you know what I mean?
Did the inmates appreciate that you were doing that?
Yeah, of course. Like, I was well known for that, like prison officers and inmates.
The officers as well?
Yeah.
What was your relationship like?
With the officers?
Yeah.
I knew how to play the game. Do you know what I mean? And there's a saying in jail, and everyone knows about, play the game. So like, officers, it can be us and them, and I can hate you and you can hate me kind of thing, but you just don't get through your time easily that way. You just get a hard time. Yeah. So it's just good to they know what you're up to if you're doing things you're not supposed to. But as long as you're just keeping calm and keeping out of the way and not causing trouble, they don't really mind, you know.
Yeah.
They're supposed to mind, but they don't really they don't really mind, you know. So yeah, the officers were just like, my relationship with officers, I never really had bad relationships with officers, but of course there was a few situations where like I was assaulted by officers, and like, you know, I had some bad situations with officers, but on the whole I never really had a bad relationship with officers, because I just played the game, you know, at the time.
You referenced a bit earlier that kind of inmates will record videos of them like drinking hooch, like smoking a spliff. What was the hairiest situation that you got yourself into whilst in prison?
Hairiest?
Yeah, like the most nasty, or...
Oh, I was in like the most nasty situation.
Did you get into any violence yourself? Were you attacked?
Of course, yeah. I've got a broken jaw, broken nose. I've been sliced. I've had all of that stuff. But that just comes with it, part and parcel, you know, like you're in prison, and especially someone like me, I was a prisoner that enjoyed using phones, you know, and I enjoyed smoking tobacco and doing these things while I was in jail. So when you do those things, it kind of puts a target in your back, like, so you kind of got to be a certain character to be able to not have that target on you, for people to be like, you know, so it just doesn't go there. There's a way to carry yourself in prison, like, you know, when you're getting phones and stuff, there's a way to carry yourself, and there's a way to carry yourself when you're not doing that. Do you know what I mean? But when you are doing that stuff, you will have a target on you. You probably could get snaked, you know. You just got to be ready for all of that.
I spoke to a guy called Mark Conway. He's a former prisoner, and he was talking about his experience where in his particular prison they have these therapy groups, and it completely changed his life around. Well, did you have any experience with any like rehab from a prison services? Was it good?
Yeah, I was on one of those. It's called it's therapeutic community.
Yeah,
TC wing. I was on one of those. It's for like long termers, and you go in this wing. It's very intense. They give you a bit of freedom though, but it's very intense because you got to go to these groups. You got to talk about your crime, and it's kind of like an AA meeting. Like
yeah.
we're all talking about a crime and you know reflecting on it and stuff. But to be honest with you, naturally I reflected on my crimes
Yeah.
while I was in my cell. Personally, I didn't need to be in any groups to do that. And I was on TC for about 8 months, and I got moved because I got in trouble there. But I don't feel like prison programs help, but it depends on who you are. Because if like your friend, he was susceptible to the programs, so they obviously helped him. And I've got a few other friends that said that the programs helped them too. But for me, the programs were stuff that was what I would call, with no disrespect to anyone else that he worked for, I would just call it common sense that I knew already. Like if someone's teasing you, what should you do, kind of thing. Like, do you know what I mean? And you're not going to turn around and say, well, I'm going to punch him in the face. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be like, if someone's teasing me, I should, take a breath for 10 seconds. And it's all of that type of stuff. And that never works for me. I have to do things in my own process, in my own way, for it to work for me, kind of thing. So yeah, I didn't experience any type of rehabilitation in jail, apart from when I decided to rehabilitate myself. Like I decided that this was too much. I'd been in for, I think, about 8 years at the time. I was like 8 years deep into time spent in prison, 8 birthdays, 8 Christmases. And I was like, this is long, man. When I come out, I'm going to be 30 and my license is going to run all the way up until I'm 35. So if I put a step wrong, I can go back in until I'm 35. And I've been going since like before I was 20. So I was like, I've already spent a third of my life by the time I come out in there. I can't do any more. So that's how I kind of told myself I need to do something different. And in all honesty, I've never been someone to just, like, I would call them guys like waste man. Do you know what I mean? Or like bums that are just doing the same thing over and over again. It's not working for them. The guy in prison coming back out, doing the same thing, not switching up the formula. You've got to want to change yourself.
Yeah.
For me, nobody couldn't change me. Like no program or nothing couldn't change me. I wanted kids. I wanted a family. I wanted to change. So.
Yeah, it's big on for a kind of personal self-responsibility.
Yeah.
If you were the prison minister,
Mm-hmm.
and hypothetically you could restructure the entire prison system, what would you change about the prison system?
I would create insane incentives. Like, this is gonna sound crazy, but I know it will work. Conjugal visits, yeah. You know what that is?
No.
Conjugal visit is a visit where you're allowed to see your partner.
Yeah.
And do bits, basically. Basically, yeah. But it sounds mad, but most countries do this.
Yeah.
And we don't do it. And I think like there's a couple other countries that don't do it. But I used to say this when I was inside. I feel like prisoners run the prison.
Yeah.
Usually, prisoners run the wing. So like, if someone's acting up, prisoners usually sort it out internally, kind of thing. So if it was a thing where, you need to behave, or you're not gonna get this thing, you need to like reach this goal for a year. Like no nickings, no trouble, no reports about you, no reports about anyone around you. Then at the end of this year, you'll be able to get this crazy incentive. I've just said a country called Visit, yeah, but
Yeah.
it could be another incentive. Do you know what I mean? Everyone will make sure they police that. Do you know what I mean? All the prisoners will get together and be like, bro, you're gonna mess up the. Do you know what I'm saying? The incentive, the crazy incentive. Because there's no incentive, it's just hold some punishment. And there's some people that are susceptible to punishment. There's some people that can get punished and understand, oh shit, I'm not gonna do that again. But there's some people that get punished and they try to wisen up and they're like, okay, I'm gonna do this different next time. And then they just become a worse criminal or a better criminal, if that makes, do you know what I mean? And there's no point fighting them or them fighting us, kind of thing. Like, I think if we just created an incentive for prisoners, you'll get good behavior. And you will get, even an incentive for prisoners coming out, you know, oh, if you, like, you know, when they're in probation, if you do X, Y, and Z, you can get this job. And, you know, I think if a lot of prisoners had a clear path, they'll take it. Mm-hmm. But everything's so foggy, especially when you come out and stuff. It's all foggy. You don't know, nothing's certain. You don't really know anything. But if we had clear incentives and stuff like that, and, you know, carrots to dangle, then I think you have a much better prison service.
Yeah. What in terms of a prison minister, in your documentary, you spoke to a Tory minister.
Yeah.
For me, it looked like he was a rabbit in the headlights.
Yeah.
He couldn't answer your question about kind of where the money's going, how he's trying to reform it, make it safer, instill kind of rehabilitation measures. What was your opinion on this guy? Did you think he was full of shit?
Do you know what was weird about that? He actually, these politicians are so weird, man, because he was agreeing with a lot of things I was saying off camera, yeah. But then on camera, he was saying things that sound good to the people that are watching the program. Do you know what I mean? But to someone like me that's lived in prison and know, like, what he's trying to say would work on anyone else that hasn't been to prison. But what he was saying to me wasn't making sense. He was like, you know, I think he was saying the government spent like all this money on security and things like this. And I've been in prison. I know the systems that they put in place don't work. Yeah. It's just like they do these things and they spend all this money to put it in a headline to kind of show that they're doing something about it, or to have an answer in the House of Commons or something like that. I don't know why they do it, but they put all these. I think they spent 100 million on airport security, like, you know, to stop phones coming in, to stop knives coming in, and there's actually been more phones since that's happened, and there's
after
actually
100 million.
After 100 million of our money spent, you know. So, you know, it just, for me, that doesn't work. It's kind of like, I have the same approach to drugs. It's like, you know, this war on drugs, yeah. But I don't think you can war drugs. Do you know what I mean? Because I think you could arrest people, put them in prison. Yeah. Someone's going to replace that person. There's too much money in this. You know, you've got to try a different approach. Radical, but you've got to try a different approach.
Do you think drugs should be legalized?
Yeah.
Regulated.
Legalized and regulated. And that's, you know, it's not to say that it's going to stop people selling it. Yeah. But if you legalize and regulate drugs, then everyone's just going to go to the shop rather than the man down the road. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think recently in Scotland, they've opened up something where people can go there and take drugs legally. Yeah. Class A drug, like heroin and that. And I wonder how that's going to work out. I wonder if it would work for them, like, you know, or if they will just get their fix there and then still go and get their fix from their dealer kind of thing. Yeah. I'm not sure. But what I do know is when I was smoking weed, if I can go to the shop, I'm not going to go to just any random person and get weed. So then it won't be a drug problem. And then you've got more money for the country, you know? Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't think, like, I'm not saying drugs are good. I think a lot of drugs are bad and they have a negative effect in your life. But so does alcohol, so does tobacco, but that's legal. Alcohol is the most deaths out of everything, I think, like more than murder, more than suicide. Like, alcohol is the biggest killer. So, but they sell it legally, it's just regulated. So I think they can do that with drugs. and that way there'll be less people in prison, and yeah, I think that could work. But did you know we're like the biggest supplier of cannabis, the UK?
Biggest supplier?
Yeah, in Europe, I think.
The UK?
The UK. Fact check this, because I might be wrong here, but I'm sure we're the biggest supplier in Europe, the UK, supplying cannabis to countries where it's legal. But we can't smoke. But you can't smoke it here. It's not legal to smoke. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's weird. So we do make money. We sell cannabis to countries where it's legal, but it's not legal. It's very strange. But you know, you can get deep into like the conspiracies and the politics, but I can't do all of that. I think it's just, yeah, it's strange. I think the answers are there right in front of you, but these politicians won't go for it. You know.
Unfortunately, we got quite a conservative culture in this country. I think, like you look at Portugal, there's various countries who have kind of legalized and regulated drugs.
Yeah.
And there's so many benefits. Like it generates tax revenue for the government. 55% of our prisoners are locked up for like drug-related crime. So you could kind of
save so much money there.
Save money there. Also, like the stuff where lots of drugs get laced.
Yeah.
I went to university, and every year, like during freshers, there'd be a couple of people each year who would die.
Yeah.
They'd take a pinger, and it'd be laced with something, and then like a 17, 18-year-old kid would be dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I think, unfortunately, that we lag behind like more progressive countries when it comes to
we
this
lag.
topic.
It's what you said. Like, it's quite a conservative country, and we try to please the conservative people, I think. But we lag behind because if we go back to prisons, you look at Norway and the Netherlands, like those countries, they do prison very differently, but they've got the lowest reoffending rate. They focus more on rehabilitation than punishment. They got the lowest reoffending rate. They got the, they're doing very well prison-wise over there. But we're not following them. We're like, we should increase the sentences. We should do this. But as we know, America's got the biggest sentences, and it doesn't work. So why shouldn't we just try and do what Norway is doing and what like these other countries? I think they're like Scandinavian type countries, like where they're so focused on rehabilitation and like once you get out, helping you back into work and reintegrating and stuff like this, that we don't really do over here. We don't really focus on over here. You kind of get out here and you're just even more pissed off. You're just, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think if this country followed other countries where it's working, I think we would do a lot better.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Going back to kind of like rehab and like setting up prisoners to be successful when they leave. I think you got released when you were 25.
No.
The 20. The first time, did you get released?
Oh, the first time I got released was just before I was 25. Yeah.
Did you have like a clear idea of how to make money legally and kind of build your life up at that point, or
no?
Were you just kind of straight back into crime?
Straight back into crime. No. In fact, what am I talking about? I did try something. Yeah, I did try something. I tried to work with. My friend had said there was some funding there and we could start like some clothing line and whatever. This was a long time ago. And, we tried it, but then the person that was running it was like bumping us, wasn't paying us fully. Then it just didn't end up working out. And then at the same time, I'm a young kid. I've got a line in country that makes 3,000 a day,
3K a day?
3,000, yeah, it was doing that every day. Averaging, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But around that, yeah, every day. Of course, I went back to that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's all I knew. I didn't have qualifications for anything else. I never worked, never had a bank account, these basic things that everyone has. In fact, I opened a bank account this time when I came out. So like one of my first bank accounts, I think I did open another bank account when I was younger, but never used. But one of my first bank accounts that was actually used for working was when I was like a big man at 30. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. Sorry, what was the question? I just went on a tangent there.
It's kind of coming out of prison your first time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then Yeah,
Oh yeah,
going back
like
into crime.
yeah, So basically, I went right back to where I was selling drugs before. I went right back there to just make more money, but at the same time, I was caught up with other things, and then I ended up doing. I was getting into armed robberies as well. So robbery, but with an imitation firearm.
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I ended up getting into that because and I'm not making an excuse or anything like that, but I just think I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't know any better. I used to think, oh, I don't want to work at Tesco's or Sainsbury's stacking shelves, because that's just like something that everyone's just always been against. Do you know what I mean? But looking back now, I would have. Like, it was way better to do that than spend the next 5 years in jail again. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I didn't want to do that. So I went back to selling drugs, and then that's when I got 10, and I spent 5 years out of that 10. And that's when I had a lot of developing to do, and then I grew, and then I understood I can't do this again. Like, I need to find something different, because if not, I'm just going to be coming here. You used to see the uncles on the wing, the granddads on the wing, and I used to say, I'm just going to be just like my man, preaching to the kids.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy. Plus, at the time, I hadn't even had a family. I was, approaching 30, and I didn't have no kids. And then all my friends did. My other friends that went legit, so never ever went into crime. It was writing me, and they was getting on with their life, and I was just thinking, I was envying them. I was like, I shouldn't have gone down this path, But now looking back, everything happens for a reason, So I don't really regret.
Yeah.
I regret some things that I did, but as in like the crimes, but I don't really regret the life that I've gone down, because it's ended up with me here, and I've changed a lot. I've got 2 kids, 1 on the way, So my life is completely changed. I don't think it would be like that had I have not done everything. It's like the domino effect.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Like, I'm 25, and you said you were making 3K a day. Do you remember, like, the most amount of money you had at a particular point, cash?
Probably like
80,000.
But I was a teenager, so this wasn't like when I was
a teenager.
Yeah, the first time I went in jail for drugs was 20. So all of it, when I was making 3K a day, that was from about 17 upwards, like 17, 18, 19. I was doing that every day. But when I'm saying 3K a day, let's not get it twisted. If you understand business, you make 3,000 a day. You got to pay a worker, you got to pay a driver. Every day in profit, I had £700 profit, but then the rest had to go into like buying more drivers, workers, runners, people that was going out running it and stuff. Food every day for the people working, and little things like that.
Yeah.
And then after all the expenses were gone, it was about £700 profit every single day, which is still good, like for a 17-year-old,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see why, if you come out of prison, it's really hard to get a job, because you kind of got that like halo around you. Like, you've been to prison, you're an ex-offender.
I wouldn't call it a halo. I'd say.
Well, not a halo.
Horns.
Horns.
Yeah.
And you kind of got 2 options. You can go to Tesco's and try and get a job earning £7.50 an hour, or you go back to what making cash in hand. You're not paying tax.
Exactly.
You're already good at it. You have experience. You have the network. So yeah, man, that's
it's so inviting,
Yeah.
Like, trust me, like, I get it. That's why I don't preach to kids. I hate preaching to kids and stuff, because I get it, man. I've been broke. I've had nothing else to do. Like, I didn't know. It's only when you get older you realize, there's apprenticeship to like get a HGV license, and then you can earn good money on that, or I can get on a construction site and can work with my hands, because a lot of people aren't a lot of people that get onto the roads are not qualified, because they didn't go uni, didn't go college. They're street smart, but they're not like qualified, but they're good at their hands. So there's a lot of trades you can do where you can earn more than that £7 in Tesco's. Do you know what I mean? But I just didn't know that. Didn't know that, and I was like, it's either because I've got a criminal record, like you said, that thing hanging over your head, like because I've got that, it's either I just go for some absolute minimum wage, or you know, you're gonna aspire for more. Like you said, it's tax-free, cash in hand.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the option I chose. But it costs you your life, you know, it costs you your time.
Yeah.
Because my 20s I'll never get back. I've never had a boys' holiday, you know. I'm still not allowed to fly out of the country. You know, it's just a waste of life. Like, it's totally not worth it. You know, at the time you're getting money, it's all right, but it's just totally not worth it. So,
what age was your first armed robbery?
do you know what? I don't know how old I was. I was probably maybe younger than 19. Younger than 19. 18 or 19 probably. I'm not sure. But it was, I had a gambling issue. And I started gambling when I was about 17. I was underage, and I used to sell drugs outside of the bookies. And you see the older guys going in there and just like, wads of cash. So I just copied them. I just went in there. They let me in because they thought I was with the older guys. They thought I was older, even though I got a baby face as well. But yeah, I went in there, won some money, and then started winning quite a lot of money, like, and losing some, but winning mainly. But that's how gambling works. Like, it gives you a bit and then takes a lot. So one day I was at my ex's house, and I used to keep like a shoebox of cash at her house, and she had gone out, and there was a bookies opposite the road, and I went in there. I only wanted to make like £1,000 off 10, so I didn't think it would be that hard. So I took 4 out, lost it, and took the other 6 out, or one way, or the other way round. I took 6 out and then lost it. I lost 10 altogether that day. Yeah. I remember I was loading him up, like the machine. It was taking too long to put it in the machine, so I was just putting it on the desk, like just saying load up my machine kind of thing. And yeah, it didn't pay out once. It took 10 grand straight from me, which is a lot of money, especially for a child. And that day I felt like, wow, it's just robbery. It's not random. Like, I used to think, obviously first getting into the bookies, you used to think, oh, it's random. You could win or you might not win. And then it kind of like developed like a habit, like a gambling habit. It was bad. But anyways, yeah, bro, it didn't pay me at all. It just sucked all my money. And I just thought, like, these guys are just robbing me, like, and they're robbing everyone, you know. And then I started thinking deeper into it, and I was like, why are there only bookies in like broke areas? You know, like if you go to all the poor areas, there's bookies on every corner. And it's like, bookies is a bookmaker or like a small casino. I don't know any other word for it. But yeah, I just thought they're set up like these little betting shops are set up in these poor areas. But then, like where we are now, have you seen the bookies around? Do you know what I mean? Because we're in Central. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to see many bookies. You might see one on a corner or something like that, but you won't see many. And I noticed that, and I thought, this is deliberate, and I felt justified in robbing them. So yeah, I went and robbed bookies. Like after I lost that 10 grand, I robbed a different one to get my money back. You know. And just want to say, like, when I started robbing bookies, I thought I was doing nothing wrong. I thought their money's insured, so if it gets robbed, they just get it back. And I just didn't think I was doing anything wrong, but I didn't realize, because I never had intentions of harming anyone, any cashiers or anything like that. I just wanted the money. Yeah, I didn't know that the cashier wouldn't know my intentions. So that cashier would have went home thinking, oh, I almost died today. A guy came in with a gun, and not knowing that a lot of the time it's not even a real gun. You know, a lot of the time it's just, you know, it's either an imitation or it's, you know, something wrapped up that looks like a gun, shaped like a gun or whatever. But she wouldn't know that, or he wouldn't know that. Whoever was behind the till wouldn't know that. So they would have went home traumatized. And I never thought about that at the time of doing it until I got a lot older, and I was sitting in my cell and I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh my days, these people like probably traumatized, you know, probably never want to work in that shop again. That's their job, that's their livelihood. I never thought I was harming any civilians or anything like that. My thing was just go in there, get the money, and get out. I never want to harm. I've never harmed anyone. Never wanted to harm anyone. But mentally, I would have definitely traumatized some people that was working in those shops.
Yeah.
So I do regret that. Yeah.
But David, how old are you? 34. 34.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you feel like you wasted your 20s. Hardly anyone in their 30s is making kind of really high quality, high caliber documentaries. Are you proud of what you've done the last couple of years?
Of course. I'm so, like, I've never ever been proud of myself. That's deep as well when you think about it. But I've never been proud of anything I was doing. I was making money and stuff like that, but I was never proud of it. It's nothing that. I was raised by my gran as well. My parents passed away, but my gran raised me like strict Christian. You know, dragged me to church every week, and I always wanted to make her proud because I was always in prison. I was always getting her door knocked off. Like they was breaking down the door to come and raid the house and stuff. And I was the only one in my family as well, by the way, that was going to prison. So yeah, I wanted to make her proud. And I just never knew how I was able to do that in prison. And even when I started doing the YouTube stuff, I never ever would have thought it would have evolved into like me producing and making my own films and presenting on telly. I never thought that would happen, but you know, God's got a plan, is what I think. Yeah. And yeah, now I'm super proud because, you know, I've come out 2020, 5 years ago, not 5 years ago, coming up to 5 years now, like 4 years and change. And I've moved out of Tottenham. I've got my partner, I've got 2 kids. You know, one of them's going to school this year. I work an amazing job. I meet amazing people. We're developing documentaries that matter. You know, it's crazy how my life has just come here. I can't explain it, bro. It's mental, but like these past 4 years has just been a whirlwind. You know, like I judged at Edinburgh Film Festival as a judge. I go to like all these all these award shows and stuff like that. And I'm just with people that I never thought I'd ever be around, kind of thing. But I'm here now, and I'm just embracing it, kind of thing. You know.
David, the way you turned your life around is so sick. I love this story. Your documentary is quality, and the podcast. So I'm going to link them below.
Thank you.
And I'm excited because I know you have some work which you're doing which you can't talk about just yet.
Yeah. There's going to be more documentaries coming out on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick. Well, it's good to meet you, man.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you so much.